Welcome to a new episode of Organizational Networks Explained. In this episode, we are looking at a question that almost everyone gets wrong. When you want to identify the people who can catalyze change across your organization or community, what do you do? If you're like most companies, you gather a group for a workshop. Then you ask them to map networks. You nominate your influencers or create a list of key people. This exercise of a workshop feels very collaborative, feels very democratic, and it feels right. But it isn't. Because you're asking the wrong people in the wrong way and you're getting systematically biased answers. Because think about who attends your change workshops. They're typically senior enough to be invited, they are available enough to attend, they are perhaps most vocal enough to be noticed, they are already a part of the inner circle. So in other words, the people you're asking to identify others are themselves a filtered, non-representative sample of your organizational community. They see the world through their particular lens, from their department, their level, and their own social network. They identify people they know, people like them, people they work with directly. And it actually gets worse, because even well-intentioned people in these workshops tend to suggest people with formal authority, because we conflate titles with influence. Or people who are very extroverted and visible, because we remember them. Or we nominate people from our own departments, because that's who we know best, right? You end up with a list that reflects the social circles of your own world and not the hidden networks that shape how information, trust and change flow through your organization or community. Now imagine a very different approach than the workshop approach. Instead of asking a select group who they think is a change catalyst, you ask everyone in the organization or community a simple question: who do you actually turn to? So in this case, you send a survey to every employee. So not just those invited in the strategy room. We ask them to nominate the colleagues they seek out for advice, trust with problems, or rely on when they need help. This is the entire system speaking and not like a pre-filtered sample as in the workshop. Then the next step is to put all this kind of data of relationships into an algorithm, because it analyzes the complete network of actual connections across your organization or community. It maps who people really turn to, revealing patterns that are invisible to any single person or group, no matter how senior or well connected you are. And this is the trick. The mathematics behind the algorithm then identifies the smallest group of employees who collectively influence the largest size of the company, which is 90% of a company or a community. And they don't know each other because they do not have overlapping networks. They are sought out in their tribes or silos, and it turns out they are not necessarily the loudest voices. They are the 3% who are genuinely perceived as competent and sympathetic by their colleagues, and that's why others actively seek out them. And this is influence measured by the entire organization's reviewed choices, and not the limited perspective of a workshop room. So let me give you 4 reasons why this algorithmic identification fundamentally is different. 1, it captures the whole system and not just the visible parts. The algorithm analyzes connections across all departments, all levels and locations. So it finds the assistant in accounting who everyone trusts, or the engineer in R&D who people from sales somehow know to call. Secondly, it measures actual behavior, not perception. Workshops give you what people think the networks look like. The algorithm shows you what the network actually is. Thirdly, it's mathematically optimized for impact. So you don't just get a list of people, you get the smallest possible group that reaches 90% of your organization. And this is the minimum viable catalyst team, you can actually call them, right? Every person on this list is there because removing them would significantly reduce the change capacity they have. Fourth, and finally, it eliminates structural bias. The algorithm doesn't care about who has the right title, who speaks up in meetings, who the leadership team knows personally, who fits the traditional profile of a leader. No, the only thing the algorithm cares about is who actually influenced the organizational community's thinking and behavior. So next time when you need to drive change through a complex organization or community, you actually have two choices. Ask a biased sample of people to guess who is influential, knowing that their answers will reflect their own limited view, their cognitive biases, and the existing power structures you might actually want to change. Or you analyze the actual influence networks mathematically to identify the smallest group with the largest general reach, the 3%, who are the trusted catalysts. One approach gives you a popularity contest among the people who are in the room. The other gives you the true change makers in your system. So, which foundation would you rather build your transformation on?